The courtroom was packed, the tension thick in the air as Sean Diddy Combs faced one of the most consequential days of his life. For years, whispers of misconduct and allegations of abuse had followed him like a shadow. Rumors traded among industry insiders, dismissed by some as exaggerations or overblown stories. But now, with cameras rolling, attorneys arguing, and witnesses testifying under oath, the truth was finally being forced into the light. And at the center of it all was Cassie, the singer, model, and former muse whose lawsuit against Diddy has rocked the entertainment world. Her case, which includes graphic claims of sexual assault, physical abuse, and psychological torment, has become more than just a legal battle. It is a reckoning that has sparked national conversation about power, consent, and the often hidden realities of life behind the velvet curtain of fame. As Cassie entered the courtroom, dressed in a sleek black ensemble that exuded quiet strength, the room seemed to collectively hold its breath. This was not just another celebrity trial. This was personal. This was painful. This was long overdue. The emotional weight of her testimony was palpable, and for many watching from outside the courthouse walls, it was a moment of catharsis. A reminder that no amount of wealth, influence, or fame can shield someone from accountability when their actions have caused real harm. Flanking her in support was none other than 50 Cent, the rapper turned entrepreneur, who has been an outspoken advocate for Cassie throughout this ordeal. His presence was not just symbolic, it was protective, a signal to the world that Cassie was not alone in this fight. The courtroom drama unfolded like something out of a Hollywood script, but there was nothing fictional about the stakes. As Cassie took the stand, she did so with a composure that belied the storm raging beneath the surface. She spoke softly, deliberately, recounting moments that had once been buried deep inside her, moments that had shaped her life in ways she could never have imagined. She described the early days of her relationship with Diddy, the allure of his charisma, the intoxicating pull of being close to someone so powerful. At first, she said, everything felt magical. He opened doors for her, introduced her to people who could elevate her career, made her feel like she belonged in a world where only the elite thrived. But as time went on, the fairy tale began to crack. What started as affection turned into control. What felt like love became manipulation. Cassie explained how Diddy's behavior shifted subtly at first. Small comments that questioned her loyalty, sudden mood swings that left her walking on eggshells, demands that were increasingly difficult to meet without feeling stripped of autonomy. Then came the incidents she had tried so hard to forget. The nights when things escalated beyond words, when violence replaced tenderness, when fear became a constant companion. She recalled one particular night that haunts her still, a night that she described in painstaking detail, her voice trembling slightly but never wavering. It was a night filled with shouting, with threats, with a level of aggression that left her shaken and bruised. She didn't know whether to run or stay. She didn't know whether anyone would believe her if she spoke up. And worse yet, she didn't know if she even deserved better treatment. Such was the depth of the psychological manipulation she had endured. Cassie's testimony was met with silence. Not the kind that comes from indifference, but the kind that follows a revelation too heavy to respond to immediately. Even the judge seemed momentarily stunned by the raw honesty pouring from the witness stand. Prosecutors leaned forward, taking notes with renewed intensity. Defense attorneys exchanged glances, clearly aware that they were facing a narrative that could sway public opinion as much as it might influence the jury. And then there was 50 Cent, seated just a few feet away, watching every word, every pause, every tear that slipped down Cassie's face. He had remained largely silent during the proceedings, but his presence was a statement in itself. Known for his sharp tongue and unfiltered opinions, 50 Cent had been vocal about his support for Cassie since the lawsuit was filed, calling out what he sees as a culture of silence that protects predators in the music industry. Now, in court, he was not there to speak. He was there to stand beside her, to remind her that she wasn't fighting this battle alone. Outside the courtroom, social media erupted. Justice for Cassie trended within minutes of her testimony going viral. Celebrities, activists, and everyday people flooded timelines with messages of solidarity, sharing their own experiences with abuse and harassment, drawing parallels between Cassie's story and the broader movement toward holding powerful men accountable. The hashtag was soon joined by others. #MeToo, #BelieveSurvivors, had time to stop protecting predators, each one a rallying cry for justice, for transparency, for change. Inside the courtroom, the emotional toll was evident on everyone involved. Diddy himself sat stoically, flanked by his legal team, listening as the woman he once mentored and allegedly abused recounted the darkest chapters of their relationship. His expression betrayed little, but the weight of the moment was undeniable. Whether he truly understood the gravity of what was unfolding, whether he saw himself in the accusations or dismissed them as exaggerations, remained unclear. But one thing was certain: the image of Diddy as an untouchable titan of hip-hop was beginning to fracture. As Cassie concluded her testimony, the judge offered a brief recess, giving the court a chance to process what had just been said. In that quiet interlude, the reality of the situation settled in. This was no longer just a legal proceeding. This was a cultural moment, a reckoning that extended far beyond the walls of the courtroom. It was about the women who had stayed silent for too long. It was about the men who had enabled a system that allowed abuse to flourish unchecked. It was about the institutions that prioritized reputation over truth, profit over people. After the break, the cross-examination began. Diddy's lawyers launched into a series of pointed questions, attempting to challenge Cassie's credibility, to highlight inconsistencies in her story, to suggest that perhaps her memory had been influenced by external pressures or financial motivations. But Cassie held her ground. She answered calmly, thoughtfully, refusing to be rattled by the aggressive tone. Her testimony was not perfect. No recollection of trauma ever is. But it was consistent enough to carry weight, and compelling enough to leave an impression. 50 Cent watched closely, occasionally exchanging quiet words with Cassie's legal team. He knew how fragile these moments could be. He had seen narratives twisted before, had witnessed victims discredited through carefully orchestrated smear campaigns. But today, he believed, was different. Today, the truth had a fighting chance. By the end of the day, the courtroom was empty. The lights dimmed, but the echoes of Cassie's words lingered. Reporters scrambled to file updates. Analysts dissected every line, and millions across the country replayed clips of her testimony online. Some called her brave. Others questioned her motives. But regardless of where people stood, one thing was clear: the conversation had changed. The voices of survivors were growing louder, and the walls that once protected powerful men like Diddy were beginning to crumble. In the days that followed, the fallout continued. More women came forward with similar stories, adding fuel to the fire that Cassie had ignited. Documentaries were announced, investigative pieces published, and calls for reform in the entertainment industry grew stronger. Meanwhile, Diddy's camp issued statements denying the allegations, insisting that the claims were part of a coordinated effort to damage his legacy. But denial, no matter how polished or well-funded, could not erase what had already been said. As for Cassie, she walked out of that courtroom knowing that whatever happened next, she had already won something invaluable. Her voice back. She had broken the silence that had bound her for years, had spoken truths that many feared to utter. And though the legal battle was far from over, she had taken the first step toward healing, toward reclaiming her power, toward proving that even the most powerful men can be held accountable. And standing beside her, silently but steadfastly, was 50 Cent. A man known for his bravado, but who, in this moment, understood that sometimes the greatest act of strength isn't in speaking, but in showing up.